If you are lost as a returning player or you want to know the best progression possible to clear the latest endgame content as a beginner, this video is for you. Blackmate Wukong released their proper endgame content and it can easily shake players to their core, as it can be extremely difficult because of the gauntlet of bosses they have to beat to get the latest items in the game. As a fellow player who completed every gauntlet challenge currently, I will be giving 7 preparation and progression tips to give you a clear direction of what things you need to do first and ultimately set you up and clear the latest content in the game. Starting with the most important tip, which is unlocking all of the bosses first, or unlocking and getting all of the things you need in your current playthrough. Gauntlet of Legends or the boss rush mode requires players to beat certain bosses for the actual challenge to unlock. Unlocking each boss will allow you to fight them in training to hone your skills by accessing the Return of Rival feature, which is going to be the backbone of your success when diving into boss rush mode. So it is a good idea to check your current playthrough or unfinished side quests and undefeated bosses. Some bosses are missable per playthrough, so you will eventually start a new playthrough to unlock them all. While you are in the process of unlocking the bosses, get as many items, curios, gourd, drinks, soaks, and more. You will be gathering crafting materials as well, so you can craft all of the weapons in armor sets to make the best builds, which I will get into later on. There are a lot of accurate guides out there currently, so pretty much you can get everything if you want to. Especially side questing and exploration is much easier now because of the newly added map feature. Now this tip can be skipped by a lot of players, especially advanced players, because I know a lot of people who completed the latest content in their first playthrough, or we know it as NG, my friends included. However, every little upgrade or new weapon can go a long mile in the Gauntlet challenge, especially for the general players out there. I highly suggest completing the game through NG plus 3 or New Game plus 3, which is likely you will unconsciously do if you follow tip number 1. By going through multiple playthroughs, you can max out your relics and unlock the 6th relic, which is the Free Mind. Then the Unified Mind perk makes your clones copy and perform every charge heavy attacks you do. This upgrade alone can trivialize most of the boss fights or break any boss, since if you release a level 4 charge attack and you have 12 clones active, it's more than enough to burst them down, and with proper setup, you can one-shot these bosses. Plus, as you go through multiple new game cycles, you will be unlocking curio slots and technically increase the chances of your success, and not to mention, the best weapon in the game can only be crafted in New Game plus 1. It may be a while since you play this game, but don't forget that you can increase your stats by farming mind cores and turning them to Sue Dog. I have covered the best of the best spots in the game, so be sure to check the description or the card here for you to save the guesswork of where to farm. These guides have all the information you need on how to optimize your farming runs. However, the process of farming can be daunting most of the time, since minecore drop rates fluctuates at times and it does have its own mechanics. So you do have an option to just proceed through multiple playthroughs and let the minecore comes naturally, since you will be beating a lot of bosses anyway. If you absolutely hate farming and have limited minecores, I suggest prioritizing increasing the stats in order. Go for HP, mana, stamina, defense, stamina recovery, shock resist, burn, poison, and lastly chill. And don't forget to get the 5 Skhanda spill to permanently increase your stats further, and I put a link in the description on how to get it. Maxing out your levels is completely optional, since I know a lot of players who beat the challenge around level 150. But as I have mentioned, every little bit of upgrade counts, and to be honest, and it's not that hard to reach the level 342 cap to unlock all of the nodes in self-advanced menu. I've also covered the best way to farm XP in this game, and I would highly suggest doing it in higher new game cycles to have bonus XP, and I think NG1 is better way of doing it. But if you don't want to farm that much, my suggestion is just to prioritize unlocking all the nodes under Stamina Tree, Martial Arts, Survival, Focus Gauge, and the stance that you prefer, and the spells that you absolutely love. Tip number 5 is stocking the key medicines that will help you clear your gauntlet runs effectively. Craft and stock the medicines that I will be mentioning here while we go through the multiple new game cycles, as it may take a while to gather their ingredients. Key medicines such as amplification pellets, long amplification pellets, soul remigration pills, enhanced ginseng pellets, septenary heartfire pills, and lastly, life-saving pills. I cannot stress how many times I use the said medicines, especially in the hardest bosses in the Gauntlet challenge, so as early as of now, gather as many medicines as you can, as it can be a lifesaver in clutch moments. If you are getting value out of this video, consider subscribing to the channel, liking the video, and engaging in the comments helps me a lot, and thank you for your support. Tip number 6 is taking advantage of the Azuridome transformation. Although I use Yellow Long as my main transformation, Azuridome can save a lot of players out there. This transformation can bring decent damage to the table, but what makes it shine is the ability to give the user to revive 3 times in combat, and that's extremely helpful for beginners. This is made possible by slotting in life-saving strand and you die while the transformation is active. The Stone Monkey will be revived with full health and extend its might. When the transformation ends, your life-saving strand in your regular form is still available. So when you fall in battle, that's another revive. The third revive, on the other hand, comes from the Remigration Pill, so by following this strategy, you will have a lot of chances to get back in the fight and finish the boss. I will be suggesting Azuridome later on when I talk about the builds, and this is the reason why. I am expecting that you collected a bunch of items during your multiple playthroughs and set the foundation for your progress. It is now time to take on the Gauntlet challenge. But first, you need the easiest to use meta builds that you can get your hands on to somehow ease the difficulty of the Gauntlet challenge for the general player base out there. All of the builds that I will be suggesting were tried and tested to complete the Gauntlet, and starting with the first one is the Wall Sage build, or known as the original Wukong build. The Wall Sage is one of the best general builds for the majority of players, having the highest defense in the game while gaining a lot of raw attack from it. So the user will have fat defense and attack stat in this build. It can take hits during Gauntlet runs and maintains its damage per second. By the way, if you want to know my specific reasoning for my item selections when making the builds in this video, watch my top 8 strongest build video for a more detailed explanation, as I have covered the same builds that I suggested here. For this video, I will just go over all of the items you need to save time. Going back to the Wall Sage, equip the Dark Iron Staff for the weapon and Weaver's Needle for the vessel. For the spirits, you do have 3 options. Top takes bottom, bottom takes top will provide the highest defense, while Gore-Eyed Taoist is suggested if you will go for the Spellbinder route in this build. By the way, a quick note about Spellbinder, it is weird that using the Spellbinder will not consume your mana and you can use it in succeeding matches. Non-able is also suggested, and Upper Mana Bot for more crowd control needs. Wear the old Wukong set and equip 3 gold spike plates. Then wear an agate jar and a cat eye bead. You could change the agate jar with a tiger tally or a beast Buddha for more damage. Spell as mentioned would be Spellbinder or Immobilize, Cloud Step, and the mandatory Pluck of Many spell. Always remember that you can slot in the life-saving strand spell if you want to take advantage of the multiple revives of the Azuridome's transformation. And the transformation is always the Stone Monkey for all of the builds, but you are free to change it to anything if you are not using the revive strategy. If you can play Yellow Long, that is so much better. Use the Supreme Gourd combined with the Long Balm. Slot in 3 Tiger Relics and a Graceful Orchid, which can be replaced by anything. Nothing too crazy in terms of gameplay. This setup can take down any of the bosses effectively, and I have done it multiple times. If you've used Spellbinder, fights will be much quicker, but if not, manage your Immobilize spell well. Usually, I flush all of my mana when I am fighting the last boss in the Gauntlet by summoning 12 clones with the use of Septenary Pill and using the enhanced Ginseng Pellet to quickly pull off a level 4 smash charge heavy attack to quickly end the fight. This is not required though. You can use 6 clones and fight normally and end the fight. The Stun God build is tagged as the strongest build in the game, not because of raw damage output, but the ability to spam vessels and spirits to stun lock targets until they die. Equip the Fuban Staff and Plantain Fan for the vessel, Upper Mana Bot for the spirit slot, and of course, the Godly Golden Armor set. Equip 3 Cat Eye Beads, an Amber Prayer Bead, and a Beast Buddha Curio. Or you can replace the Amber Prayer Bead with another Beast Buddha Curio. Slot in Supreme Gourd with Sunset of the Nine Skies with 3 Tiger Relics equipped. For the main spells, focus on the Immobilize spells for more crowd control options and the Pluck of Many Clone spell for burst strategies. Playing the Stun God build is pretty simple. Managing the Upper Mana Bat, the Plantain Fan, and your level 4 charge heavy attacks are the key strategies of this build. This is required to maintain the stun loop and make the bosses powerless against you. Always remember to maximize each stagger window or max out tornado and freeze windows by continuously performing Immobilize spin to charge your vessels and spirits quickly. The Raging Bull Sage build is the most accessible or easiest build that you can use to complete the whole Gauntlet challenge. This build banks on high damage reduction reduction so the user can tank enemy attacks and deal damage in exchange, allowing the user to have a lot of wiggle room in terms of making mistakes. I've showcased this build in my top armor sets video, and the build idea remains the same. Equip the Dark Iron Staff and Wind Tamer for the vessel. Equip the Earth Rakshasa for the spirit and the Bull King's armor set. Slot in 3 golden spike plates and a Boshan sensor, and lastly a Tiger Tally. Slot in Ching Tian Gourd with a Jade Dew as it drinks, combined with an Iron Pellet, Laurel Buds, and a Graceful Orchid. You will be using Spellbinder strictly for this build to increase your overall damage output. Another build that is easy to play, and what I usually do is cast the Rakshasa first to just flush the Spirit Vessel and activate the Wind Tamer. Use the Ching Tian Gourd to stack up damage reduction and reach 80% damage reduction. Ultimately, cast Spellbinder to increase your damage output. During this phase, or while the Wind Tamer is active, you can pretty much trade blows with the boss and deal serious damage with minimal effort. When the Wind Tamer expires, make sure to dodge properly and use a Gourd Charge every time the Gourd regenerates to have more damage reduction and HP regen. Technically, you do have an unlimited supply of Gourd Charges if you manage it properly. Perfect for Gauntlet runs. You do have an option to not cast a Spellbinder and use the Wind Tamer when it's ready, and it is a good strategy as well. By following all the tips that I provided so far, you will do have greater chances and faster runs compared to my experience. But if you are curious about how good are the rewards in this challenge, or you want to know the other builds you can make, click on these videos and I will catch you on the next one.